I remember vividly the day I moved out. At the time, I was working on a military base in a grocery store, a job I never wanted but was forced into by my mom. Why? Because we were moving into a new place with $2,000 rent, and she decided it was now my responsibility to help cover it. She took almost all of my paychecks. I became a tenant in my own home. The job I got wasn't for independence, it was survival. I had hoped to save for clothes, my own food, a future. But the only thing I could afford was enough groceries to last a week barely. I worked the night shift as a shelf stalker, which was a small mercy, at least I didn't have to deal with customers. But my sleep schedule was destroyed. I only worked 4 days a week, and while the pay was decent, I was allowed to keep maybe 10 to 15% of it, the rest. My mom took it without hesitation, claiming it was part of being responsible. Then I'd watch her freely hand out money to friends and family while I couldn't even buy myself a new shirt. It infuriated me. But quietly, I had already started planning my escape. On November 15th, 2024, my boyfriend and I made the first steps toward a real plan. We decided I'd move to Missouri. During a terrible trip to the Philippines that my mom forced me to take, those plans solidified. His parents bought the plane ticket. I was set to leave on May 19th, 2025. What I hadn't planned for, what I naively hoped wouldn't happen, was my mom's reaction when she found out. She discovered everything 2 weeks before my flight on May 3rd. I came home late from work, exhausted as usual. She was waiting for me in the living room, serious, cold. She sat me down, and I already knew. I knew what it was about the moment she looked at me. Apparently, some of my coworkers, people I trusted, leaked the news. They said they had to tell her. They didn't think it was a good idea, but they still did it because she's my guardian, and legally, I guess that gave them permission. But if I had been my own guardian, if I had been free in that way, she never would have known. I don't hate them, but I also don't forgive them. They didn't go through what I did. They didn't live under constant emotional surveillance. So there I was, face to face with her, and instead of asking me why I was moving, instead of even referring to me like I was a person, she started venting. She told her own life story, talking about her daughter, like I wasn't even in the room. Never once using my name, never once acknowledging me in the present tense. And I recorded it because I knew what was coming.
At the bar, he asked me to dance. We drink. We talk. I was older then. I already have experience. And then I only met him for one day. I met him. I talked to him. I met him. I met.
As you have noticed already, at the very first point during our confrontation, my mom brought up how she met her ex-boyfriend like that, somehow proved she had better judgment than me. She told the story like it was something profound, emphasizing how they met in person at some bar where he asked her to dance. She kept saying that word like it was the holy grail of credibility. I met him. I met him. Over and over. I guess she thought that because I met my boyfriend online, my relationship wasn't real. That it was built on fantasy, not truth. That I couldn't possibly know him. That I was being reckless. But the truth? We took our time. We built trust. We exchanged important personal information. We had honest, vulnerable conversations, something I don't think she's ever had with anyone. Still, she pushed her narrative like it proved something, but they're not even together anymore. So, what was her point? That she met a man face to face and it still went to hell. Was that supposed to be a lesson? No, it wasn't about teaching me anything. It was about discrediting my decision, about planting doubt, about making herself feel superior, like she still had the final say on what counted as love and what didn't. Because deep down, it wasn't him she didn't trust, it was me. She couldn't accept that I made a huge life decision on my own without her input. So she tried to twist it, tried to make it seem like I was being foolish, like I'd come crawling back when it all fell apart. But I knew what she was doing. Her little story wasn't about wisdom or warning. It was a desperate grab for control disguised as concern, and I didn't bite. I had already blanked her out.
And then after that, he went to Pennsylvania. I was already 30 years old. And we call back and forth over the phone. When I call him, I know he's because I met him in person. My stupid ass. When he asked me to move over there, I said yes. I sold my condo. I sold everything I have. When I sold my condo, I lost money on it. The money that I put in on my condo, I lost it. Actually, my dad had to pay another $1,000 in order for me to sell my condo.
Then she went off on another tangent about her ex-boyfriend again. This time it was about how he moved to Pennsylvania and how he asked her to come with him. And of course, she said yes. No hesitation, no planning, just yes. But what came next actually stunned me. And when I told my boyfriend, he couldn't even believe it. Instead of renting out the condo, she lived in something that could have made her steady. Monthly income while giving her options, she sold it, everything. Her home, her belongings, gone. Not only that, she didn't even have the money to properly sell it herself. She had to get her father, who, honestly, babies her throughout her entire life, to lend her $1,000 just to get it sold. She admitted it was a stupid decision, and she was right. It was, but for some reason, she brought it up while I was telling her I was moving to Missouri. It had nothing to do with me. I wasn't following a man across the country blindly. I wasn't selling everything I owned on a whim. I was planning, I was thinking. I was taking back my life with intention. So why did she bring it up? Because she needed to feel smarter than me? Because she wanted to frame my decision as equally rash, equally foolish, so that she wouldn't have to admit that I was doing something she never had the courage or self-awareness to do, leave with clarity. She put her entire future into a man's hands. She burned every safety net she had just to follow someone who wasn't even permanent in her life. And then, when it fell apart, she had nothing, no home, no plan, no fallback. That's not love. That's recklessness. And now she's trying to spin my carefully planned move into something just as unstable when really she's just projecting her own regret.
Before I go, I told my dad where I'm going. I told some friends where I'm going, just in case. But then again, I've been in Alaska for over 8 years then. I already worked. So when I quit, I know that when I go to Philadelphia, I will receive unemployment. I know that I have money, coming with me. When I got there, I only have like $300, whatever, I don't know. And I spend most of it. And my money, my employment is not coming for not after a month.
But she wasn't done yet. After ranting about her ex-boyfriend and her decision to follow him to Pennsylvania, she went into even more detail, like she was trying to justify the whole thing by dumping her mistakes into my lap. She told me that before she left Alaska, she made sure to tell her dad and a few friends she made while working at a hotel. She said it like that somehow made it a smart move. Like the fact that she gave people a heads up made it responsible. At that point, she'd been in Alaska for over 8 years. She quit her job before leaving and started receiving unemployment. She had a small sum of money saved up, which I'm guessing wasn't much, because when she got to Pennsylvania, she had about $300 left. And she spent most of it almost immediately. Then, about a month later, her unemployment payments stopped coming in, and suddenly she had nothing. She said all of this with a straight face, almost like she wanted me to feel bad for her. But I didn't feel bad. I felt confused, because what exactly was the point of telling me this? To prove that she's made reckless decisions too? To show me that, hey, I messed up worse, so your move must be a disaster waiting to happen? And even if that wasn't her intention, all it really told me was this: she didn't plan at all. She didn't try. She had no job lined up, no backup plan, no real money. She took a blind leap for a man she barely knew and expected everything to fall into place. It didn't. And maybe the most maddening part? She never once explained why she didn't find work. She never said she looked. She just said the money stopped. Like that was something completely outside her control. So either she put zero effort into building a life there, Or she's leaving out the part where she made another bad decision and doesn't want to admit it. Knowing her, it's probably both. And still somehow she thought this was a relevant story to tell me, as if I'd be inspired by it or scared into staying. But all it did was remind me how different we are, because unlike her, I didn't quit and hope for the best. I didn't follow love blindly.
And then, all of a sudden, he started treating me weird, like treating me different, like trying to be mean to me, trying to fight me. And I said, if he's just not gonna treat me that nice, and if he's gonna treat me ugly, I met him personally. I'm just gonna go back home to Alaska because my dad said it doesn't work out here. I can go back there. I can live with him. My dad said it's okay because they know where I'm at, and some friends don't know where I'm at. And then all of a sudden, he changed. He changed into a nice person. But one thing is, he doesn't really have a job. He have a house, but he doesn't really have a job. Oh yeah, he rent the apartment upstairs. That's where his income is. But the tenant does most of the time don't pay the rent. So I have to hurry. To survive, I have to hurry to find a job. That's when I got the job at Four Seasons Hotel. You know who pay most of the bill? I do. Because he go to school and work part-time. I spend most of the bill.
And then, like flipping to another chapter in a book I didn't ask to read, she dropped this next part. Apparently, after she moved in with her ex, he started treating her weird. She said he tried to fight her and was not nice anymore. So she told him something like, if you're gonna treat me like this, I'll just move back to Alaska with my dad. And just like that, poof, he suddenly turned into a nice person, because that's how real, lasting personality change works, right? No, that's textbook manipulation. It wasn't real. It was a temporary mask to keep her where he wanted her, useful, desperate, and without options. But she either didn't see it, or she didn't want to, because if she did, she'd have to admit that she was used, and not just emotionally. Then she mentioned something else. He didn't really have a job. He owned a house, sure, but the upstairs apartment he rented out was barely covering anything because the tenant usually didn't pay rent. And that was his only steady income. So when her unemployment dried up and there was no financial support from him, she was suddenly forced to rush into finding work. Oh, so now she wants to find a job? Because she had no choice? Because the person she followed across the country wasn't stable, wasn't supportive, wasn't even honest? He was just someone who needed help paying bills, and she filled the role. She told me she ended up paying most of the bills herself because he went to school and only worked part-time. Let's just pause here. She sold her condo, quit her job, gave up her support system, moved across the country for a man who had no reliable income, and ended up supporting him instead. That's not a relationship. That's codependency mixed with desperation. It was never about love. It was about her fear of being alone, her need to feel wanted, even at the cost of her independence. And even now, years later, she doesn't seem to fully realize what happened. She knows she was used, she said it, but she still hasn't accepted that it was her own choices, her own refusal to think long term, that put her in that position. So when she looks at me making plans, trusting someone carefully, preparing for my move, she's not seeing danger, she's seeing a mirror, and she can't handle it. She doesn't want me to repeat her mistakes, but she also doesn't want me to succeed where she failed, because if I do, then what excuse does she have left?
And most of the time, he left me by myself at home. He doesn't go home till late at night, and I'm sad crying because I'm by myself. But I stick with it because I thought I love him. And 3 years later, about 2 years later, I got pregnant, but I have miscarriage. I was sad, but he was happy. And then another year later, I got pregnant with Camille. He asked me to abort the baby, and he would marry me later on. But no. I said, no, I'm not gonna abort my baby. I love my baby. I don't care if you leave me. I'm gonna take my baby. He said, no, I would marry you, blah, blah, blah. He promised me everything. I said, no. What he did, he left me. He left me.
She kept going. She said that most of the time, he'd leave her at home alone. Didn't come home until late at night. She said she was sad and crying. But she stayed. She said she loved him. 2 years passed like that. Then she told me she got pregnant, but had a miscarriage. She said he was happy about it. Let that sink in. He was happy she lost the baby. And a year after that, she got pregnant again with me, except she didn't say that. She didn't say my name. She said, Camille. She told the story like she was talking about a stranger, like I was a plot point, like I didn't exist in the room. Camille was dead in a ditch somewhere. That's how she said it. That's what she called me. I don't know if she was trying to be symbolic or just cruel, but the result was the same. She erased me. She told me how her boyfriend wanted her to abort the baby. He told her he'd marry her after. She said no. She said she loved the baby. Not me. Never me. Even when describing the moment I was conceived, she talked around me, detached, like I was a memory she regretted, a decision she felt cornered by, and according to her, that's when he left. But something didn't sit right with me, and when I told my boyfriend about it, he said what I was already thinking deep down. She probably tried to baby trap him, and honestly, he's probably right. It fits. She was already emotionally abandoned, financially unstable, desperate for someone to stay. And what better way to force permanence than a child? It would also explain everything that happened later, the way she clung to me when I was a baby, how I was her angel as long as I couldn't talk back, how she praised me when I was quiet and small, but turned cold, bitter, and abusive as soon as I developed a voice. A mind of my own. Because if I was never a child to her, if I was a tactic, a last-ditch effort to keep a man who didn't want to stay, then it makes sense why she never saw me as a person, why she never protected me, why she always saw me as the reason her life went wrong. I wasn't her daughter. None in her eyes. I was the consequence of her desperation. And now, in the middle of my story, she still insists on telling hers, still insists on calling me Camille, like Hazel never existed, like the woman who was brave enough to leave her was never real.
So now I'm pregnant all alone. I was depressed. But thank God, I have friends over there that I met from my job. So I asked her if I can stay with her while I'm pregnant, and she said, okay. All you gotta pay me is a little bit of money to rent a basement apartment, which is okay for me. I was depressed. I cry all the time. The only thing that suits me is I listen to music. All suit me. To all my sadness when they left me is I listen to music until the baby is born. I love that baby very much. And then, but after a while, I have this lady watching her. I have all this formula, and the lady is giving my daughter's milk, giving a little bit and most water. And when I come home, my daughter is throwing up. What am I gonna do? And when she said, oh, because I don't want you to think that we're using all the milk, I said, I don't care if you use all the milk. I don't care if I run out of milk in one day. If my mom, the baby hungry, feed her the whole milk. Don't skim it. Don't put a lot of water and a little bit of milk. I decided that's it. I cannot stay here no more. I don't have anybody to watch my kid. So 3 months later, I went back to Alaska and I asked my dad, I have a daughter now. My boyfriend left me and I don't have no place to go. Thank God they have a spare bedroom for me to stay. And I said, Dad, can I stay here for 1 year without paying a rent and without working? I want to take care of my baby for 1 year for me without working. And he said, okay. Since I already delved my life in Fairbanks and I already been there for 8 years of my life, I know that I can seek help because I already have a life before I left. So I was able to get WIC for my daughter and I was able to get $400. It's not much, Camille, but at least I get $400 a month and I don't have to work and I get food stamp and WIC. So I can feed myself, I can pay my baby's diaper because the WIC milk is not enough. So I have to buy 2 more. So at least I have that $400. Not much, but at least I have. And I was able to take care of my daughter for a full year.
And then, because her story wasn't over and apparently never would be, she circled back again to herself. She told me how depressed she was. She emphasized it like it was a trump card. I was crying all the time, she said. I was alone in Philadelphia, and the only thing that soothed me was listening to music. Okay, music. She said it like it was a deeply emotional confession, but really, it wasn't about healing. It was about painting herself as the tragic protagonist. The noble sufferer. She made a point to say that thank God she had some new friends from her job and that she'd moved in with one of them, only paying a little bit of money. More proof in her eyes that she had survived, but nothing in this part of her story was about how she protected me. It was all about how she endured. Then she told me, and then the baby was born, not you. Not my daughter, not Hazel, just the baby. again. And she said she loved that baby very much, but she said it like she was trying to convince herself. Then came the part about the woman who babysat me, how this woman skimmed my formula, watered it down, and I ended up throwing up when my mom came home. Apparently, the sitter did it so my mom wouldn't think she was using too much milk. That moment should have been a warning siren, a sign that something was wrong, that I wasn't safe, that her judgment and support system weren't stable. But instead of diving into that, she glossed over it. Just a sad footnote in her sad story, a transitional moment for her next act, going back to Alaska. She said she had no one to care for her baby in Philadelphia, so she asked her dad if she could move back and live in his spare bedroom, rent-free, no job, no contribution. She told him she'd only stay for a year to take care of her baby. Again, not me, still tucking around me, still guilt-tripping me with a story that was never about love. It was about hardship currency. She said he agreed, and she got $400 a month, food stamps, and formula. Let's be real about what this actually was. This wasn't an empowered single mother making a difficult but strategic choice. This was someone falling apart, getting bailed out again, and expecting applause for surviving a fire she helped light. And the whole time she tells me this, there's this tone, this undercurrent of, see what I did for you? See what I sacrificed? But that's the thing. You don't get to call it sacrifice if you didn't protect the person you're sacrificing for. You don't get to rewrite your child into a vague object of suffering and then use that suffering to demand loyalty. She was trying to guilt me, to make me feel sorry for her, to make me forget all the ways she failed me later, that even in this origin story, all I saw was the pattern. She made reckless decisions. She lacked planning. She depended on others to pick up the pieces. She turned me into a prop instead of a person. And she still does it, even now. She can't tell this story with me in it, only the baby. Because acknowledging that I grew up, that I now have my own voice, means acknowledging that I remember, and I do.
Then after that, I have to go to work. What worse is when I have to deliver to Davida, and Davida's doing something crazy about all the kids, stripping them naked. I don't know what the hell she's doing with those kids. The next time I know she was just trying to escape. And I didn't want to put my daughter to that thing anymore because I think she did something not right with my daughter. I don't know. I can't tell. I don't have no witness. But I think she did something. After that in my mind, then I met a boyfriend and I think he's doing the same thing. So even though I really don't want to get married with Roland, because I was so depressed, I was so heartbroken, and I just can't trust anybody. And Rio was telling me, Connie, if you marry Rodney, at least it's like he have a psychologist. He can help you with Kabel. He can do this, he can do that. I'm so low confidence going. And I just really need somebody help. And I just need somebody I can trust with my daughter. So I agree.
Then came the next babysitter, Davida. From what I can remember, it wasn't all bad. Spending time there felt neutral. Not necessarily happy, but safe enough for a while. But then my mom claimed something out of nowhere, that Davida was on the run from the law, that she was doing all kinds of crazy things, and that something wasn't right with her own daughter. She never explained what exactly. No evidence, no real memory. Just wild accusations that sounded more like deflection than protection. And once again, she didn't talk about what I was going through. She didn't ask how I felt. Just dumped more chaos and claimed the world was dangerous while pretending she was doing her best. Then she told me how she met my stepdad, yes, the abusive one, and in a rare moment of honesty, she admitted something. She thought he might have been abusing me, and she said she noticed it, knew there was something off, but still she stayed. Still she let him near me. Still she married him. I told her back then I didn't like him. He didn't like me. We didn't trust each other. I voiced it. I was a child, but I said it. And even then, it didn't matter. She said she didn't want to marry him at first because she was depressed and didn't trust anyone. But her friend, Rio, convinced her. Rio said he could help with Camille. Said he had a background in psychology. Said he'd be good for us. And just like that, Camille became the bargaining chip again. My mom told me through crocodile tears. that she had low confidence, that she just needed someone to help, someone she could trust with Camille. But here's the thing, I didn't trust him, and that should have been the end of the conversation. It should have been enough, but it wasn't, because my voice didn't matter. Not then, not when I was a baby, not when I was old enough to understand danger, not now. As she retells the story to make herself the martyr in a situation where I was the casualty, she said she needed someone to trust, but she didn't trust me. She didn't trust the child she claimed to be protecting. She trusted a man over the voice of her daughter, and then she wonders why I left.
But guess what? I made another mistake again. Because he obviously only cared for one thing too. One mistake after another. But at least I know he's not gonna do anything bad to my daughter. I'm 100% of that. He's not gonna do anything bad to my daughter.
What she said next, that's what really pissed me off. She finally admitted out loud that my stepdad was a bad partner, didn't care about her, didn't treat her right. Wow, shocker. The sky is blue, water is wet, and the man I told you I didn't trust, the one who made my life hell, was exactly who I said he was. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. At least I know he's not going to do anything bad to my daughter. Are you serious? She said it like she deserved a medal, like she'd protected me from something, like she hadn't handed me over to a man who abused me for years. And then, like she knew she was stepping on a landmine, she tried to soften it.
I'm not talking about popping you in the butt for 1 year. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about bad, like abuse.
That was abuse, you idiot. And it wasn't for a year. It was for 7. 7 of the 9 years I lived in that house, that man was there. 7 years of yelling, threats, emotional warfare, and constant fear. 7 years of being undermined, ignored, belittled, blamed, gaslit by both of you. And let's not pretend that you weren't part of it. You abused me too. You enabled it. You excused it. You took his side over and over and over again. You chose him every single time I cried, begged, or said I didn't feel safe. And now you sit there retelling this story like it's yours, like your pain outweighs mine, like my memories are just inconvenient footnotes in your tale of sacrifice and survival. But here's the truth. You weren't a victim in this part of the story. You were an accomplice. You weren't helpless. You were complicit. You failed me. And now, instead of owning that failure, you try to redefine abuse as something worse than what happened to me, as if what I lived through wasn't bad enough, it wasn't abuse. No, it was, and you don't get to rewrite that. You don't get to soften the timeline, shift the blame, or pretend that a man who terrorized me for most of my childhood was somehow harmless. This part of the story isn't about you. It never was. And then, just when I thought she couldn't say anything more, backwards, more revealing, more disgusting, she said this.
Because I know that he's bisexual, but he's not going to do anything to my daughter.
Are you serious? Are you actually hearing yourself? What does that even mean? What twisted logic told her that his sexual orientation somehow made him safe? That's not how it works. That's never how it worked. Bisexuality doesn't magically make someone trustworthy or untrustworthy. It has absolutely nothing to do with whether someone is capable of abuse. And for her to say that out loud, like it was a fact, like that somehow proved she made the right choice. It just shows me how ignorant, how careless, how insanely reckless she was with me. She didn't choose him because he was safe. She chose him because he was available. Because she wanted help. Because she wanted someone, anyone, to take the responsibility off her hands. Even if that someone didn't care about her. Even if that someone didn't care about me. This is what I mean when I say she never protected me. This is what I mean when I say I can't trust her. Because I will not let someone who justifies abuse with ignorance and blind hope have any more power over my life. Not now. Not ever again.
Oh my God. When my daughter got cold and I think she's wheezing, I ran right away to the ER. And the doctor said, "Which running to the ER? Your daughter only got cold. She's fine. All you gotta do is buy cold medicine. She'll be fine." But no, doc, she can't breathe. She's wheezing. Every time, because people smoking downstairs or whatever. So I moved back to that apartment, moved to a different apartment. I even have a little kid already wheezing. I gotta give a kid that inhaler. That is not good. I gotta live in a place where nobody's smoking. Oh,
Wow. You want a cookie for keeping your child alive? For doing the absolute bare fucking minimum of what a parent is supposed to do? Congratulations, you didn't let your daughter die from secondhand smoke. Want a round of applause? The fact that she even brings this up as proof that she cared shows how little she actually did. She wants a medal for reacting to a crisis that was already her fault. She put me in that environment. She didn't prevent it, she waited until I was sick to act.
I'm not a perfect mother when they told me that my daughter is developmentally delayed. It's frustrating. I'm not a perfect mother. I try to give my daughter time out, but the timeout doesn't work. I'm only human. Sometimes I lose my patience, so sometimes when I get hungry, I have to spank her because she don't listen. Not because I hate my daughter. I love my daughter. No matter how much my daughter think, how much she hate me, how much my daughter curse me, well, how much I don't care how much daughter think that I don't love her. I don't care how much my daughter think that I abuse her. God is my witness. Okay, I get everything because I love my daughter. Am I a perfect mother? No. But I know when I was a kid, I don't have anything. I have no toy. When I asked my mom for 10 centavos, she got mad at me and yelled at me. But when my sister asked for 1 peso, that's between 10 cents and $1. And she would give my daughter $1 and my sister $1.
She had the nerve to say, I'm not a perfect mother, right after bringing up that I was developmentally delayed, as if that somehow excused everything she did. No. You're not a perfect mother. You're not even a good mother. And frankly, calling you a mother at all feels like a kindness you haven't earned. She said she tried timeouts. And when that didn't work, because apparently I didn't understand I was being punished, she gave up. Just like that. Took a page straight out of her own mother's abusive playbook and followed it like gospel. Because it's easier to hit than to learn. Easier to scream than to grow. And then she hides behind that tired excuse, I'm only human. No. That only works when your mistakes are accidents. You've hurt me repeatedly. You've said things with the full intent to harm. You've crossed every boundary I tried to set. That's not human error. That's choice. She keeps insisting she doesn't hate me. That she loves me. That I'm the one who curses her, who hates her. But she hasn't even let me speak. She hasn't given me a single moment to breathe without turning it into her pity party. Then she goes on, her favorite topic, how her mom favored her sister. How I was loved more than her. Like somehow that makes all this my fault. Like I'm the villain in the story she's rewritten to make herself the tragic, weeping heroine. And guess what? Her sister didn't turn out any better. She's homeless. Mentally shattered. Just like her. Just like this whole family line that rots from the inside out. And I'm done trying to talk to her. I can't. Because talking to her is like screaming into a void that only echoes back her own delusions. So go ahead, call yourself a mother. But don't expect me to agree. Because I've been your daughter. And I know better.
So I said, not gonna have that my daughter want for anything. Need toys, I get her. Need slide, I get her. Need swing, I get her. Need DVDs, I get her. I spent all the money for her. I'm not a perfect mother. Nobody is. You keep saying that. Nobody is. You keep saying you're not a perfect mother. Nobody is. I know you're not a perfect mother. But my daughter, when she was young, she appreciated me. My daughter, when she was young, she really loved me so much. You love me because I was submissive and agreeable. It's the only reason. I always love my daughter no matter what. Whether my daughter is good or bad or evil or whatever. Because it gave birth to my daughter. I did not my child. It didn't feel like that. But you don't want me to it. But you don't want to acknowledge that. You never really wanted to acknowledge that. And then, now. I vote now.
And then she starts rattling off this sad little inventory of toys and DVDs she bought me as a kid. As if that was love. As if that excuses anything. As if stuff could patch over the years of screaming, the control, the fear, the manipulation. You appreciated me back then, she says. No, I was a child. I was surviving. And she still can't tell the difference. And just like a scratched record, she says it again. I'm not a perfect mother. Over and over like some kind of spell that'll wipe away everything she's done. But she doesn't say it to me, no, not really. She's not even looking at me like I'm me. It's like I'm not even there. Just a prop in her one-woman show. And it gets worse. She says she loves me whether I'm good, bad, or evil. Evil. She called me evil. That's what I get. After everything she's done to me, I'm the evil one? And finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I speak. I call her out. I finally call her out. And guess what? Now she wants to talk about me moving. Now, after that endless tirade about herself, her life, her pain, her choices, her regrets, now she remembers I'm a person sitting in the room. And what's the first thing out of her mouth? Not, why are you leaving? Not, what happened? Not, are you okay? No. She says, you're wrong. That what I'm doing is wrong.
Camille, whatever you're planning, I'm not gonna stop you. I'm gonna give you this. You're going to the person you never met personally. You don't know if that person is real or not. Talking about a mother buying you a plane ticket to St. Louis. Have you been to St. Louis? Do you know what kind of place is that? Because St. Louis is close to Kansas City, Missouri. That's where my dad lived. St. Louis, Missouri is pretty close. I did to Kansas City, Missouri, and it's bad over there. It's bad. You talking to the person, I don't know.
And that's all I was able to record before my battery was about to die. Though things didn't get any better. She only got way worse when I stopped recording, calling my boyfriend an ugly criminal, saying that she detained me because of my disability and all sorts of other hurtful things. And when I finally had enough and went to my room, she still wouldn't let up and continued to rant to me while I tried to rest after work. Finally, she left me alone but continued to victimize herself to friends and family. This is far from the end of the story. It only gets worse from here. Stay tuned for part 2.